On this worksheet, what we're going to look at is nested if statements that include the words and or. As you can see, I've actually put down the exact formula function actually for you down here, so if you get lost you can see this. So I'm going to stick up here with the first one, and this is if. So if the person, and again I'm reading from here, if the person is 17 or over and works in finance, they qualify to take the driving test. So in other words, they must be 17 and they must work in the finance. And just because I'm using 2 here doesn't mean that 2 is all you're allowed. You can have as more ands in the same nest as you wish. So be it for or as well. So again, we're going to start in here, and what we're going to say to this is we're going to say equal if, open the bracket. And because we're using the and, it starts off with and. So we're going to say and, open the bracket. Now this is where you put in all the logics that you want it to meet. And it must meet all the logics that you put in here. So what the first one we're going to say is that if in B7, if this is equal to, quote mark, finance, and whether it's uppercase, lowercase, makes no difference. What does make a difference, that it is actually spelt correctly, quote mark, comma. Also, with and, is also in C7, they must be greater than or equal to 17. So we're saying they have to be in finance and they have to be 17. That's what we're saying here. Now that we're finished with the logic and the ands of the and, we're going to close the bracket on that and logic and comma. So now we revert back to a straightforward if. If it agrees with both of them, what can they do? It's the first statement. And the second statement is if they do not agree. So if they both agree, what we're going to say in here, inside brackets, is they can do test, quote, comma. And if they don't meet both of those items, we're going to say comma, and we're going to say the word cannot do test, quote marks, and close the bracket, and enter. So we're going to click on top of this, we're going to get our black copycross and go all the way down. So now you can actually see who can and who cannot do the test straight away based on the fact of 17 and over and must work. So let's have a look to see who can do the test. So Jones in finance is 17 and therefore can do the test. So let's look at Doyle. Doyle works in agriculture. He is 17, but because he doesn't meet both criteria, he cannot do the test. So let's go now do if and or. So we're going to click in here. Now the difference between and or is quite simple. With the and function added into the if, that means all of the criteria, all of the logics must be there. With or, it means as long as one of the logics is there, then it's a positive. Otherwise it's a negative. So we can say or this, or this, or this, and as long as they meet one of the logics, then they get the positive response. So again, let's start off here. This is equal to if, open the bracket, and because we're using the or nested version of if, we're saying or, open the bracket. So we're saying, again, it's the same thing, but this time we're saying if the person's 17 or older, or they work in agriculture. All right, they can. So the first thing we're saying is this, is if in B7, so in B7, if this is equal to, quote mark, agriculture, quote mark, all right, comma, or if C7 is greater than or equal to 17, okay, the bracket, they're the two ors, so they can either be in agriculture or 17, and comma, the first aspect is they can do test, comma, and the second one is quote mark, cannot do test, quote mark, close the bracket, enter. Let's go back on top of this, get the black copy cross, and go all the way down. So let's have a look at this. So let's look at Kelly. Kelly is in agriculture, but she's 16. But because she's in agriculture, she can do the test. And that's nested if.